Hello, welcome to the episode of Motoring Middle East. Today I'm checking out the Dodge Charger GT. And if you're like me, you're probably wondering, what's a Charger GT? I thought I knew all of them. Of course, the Charger's been around for years, and it's a full-size rear-wheel drive sedan made by FCA. Frankly, the only one really left in its class, the kind they just don't make anymore. And even though it's based on a 90s Mercedes E-Class, the E-Class never came with a 3.6 Pentastar and 300 horsepower as the base engine, going up to a 6.2-litre supercharged Hellcat motor for the top 700 horsepower enchilada. But what's the GT? Well, the GT is part of FCA's strategy to provide a charger for frankly anybody that's ever lived at every price point. So, to wit, it's an SRT body and goodies with a 3.6 Pentastar engine. Now, if you're like me, you're wondering, who would want that? Well, it turns out a lot of people, because a lot of people do buy the base car and they just want a Charger. They just want that name. Just like a lot of people buy 4-cylinder Mustangs, way more than V8 Mustangs. Same goes for the Camaro. So a lot of people just want the image and the noise. But I like a car that's go as much as its show. So will the Charger live up to its billing? Let's find out. So I'm not going to really waste too much time on this walk around because frankly, if at this point you don't know what a Dodge Charger is, you probably need to be on a different channel. So let's have a quick look at the Charger GT and see what we're getting. Well, first of all, we're getting a lot of SRT bits. This is the SRT hood scoop, same as you get on a Hellcat. The front fascia also looks kind of SRT style. These wheels are big, kind of like the brass monkey style alloys you get on a Hellcat. However, I'm not crazy about this chrome finish. I wish there'd been a nice matte grey. What I am crazy about is this plum crazy purple paint. It's a vintage color, but it's gorgeous. It makes the car, and everybody can't stop and stare at it. Off the back, of course, you've got an SRT style spoiler. So, SRT style bumper. So, if you looked from a distance and you squinted, you'd think this was a Charger SRT, which is kind of the point of the Challenger GT. There's no badging to betray that this is just a base Pentastar engine. Normally, on the flank right here, just about here, you'd get a Hellcat motor decal, or you'd get a Hemi logo, or 6.4 392. So this is really the only way to tell the Challenger GT apart from its other rivals. Otherwise, for most people, it looks pretty cool. There must be at least one badge, right? Well, there is this GT badge here. So it's so unobtrusive that most people will think, well, gosh, what is this car? Is it some special edition Challenger? Charger. I still get them confused after all these years. Oh, and a quick look at practicality. It is very practical. Here's the boot release. Look at the size of that boot. Okay, at least 3 to 4 dead bodies. And the massive Alpine system. Oh yeah, this car comes with the Alpine. So it's got a lot of goodies. What it doesn't have are modern style doors. Look at these lift up handles that were so in vogue in 2007. Everything now is a push-pull type thing. It does, however, have keyless entry, so it'll button here to let you in and out of the car. Alright, that's enough about the exterior. Let's get on the road. I said I was going to take it on the road, but let's take a quick look at the interior to see what differentiates from the regular Charger. Now, regular Chargers get a fairly basic seat, but this clearly gets the SRT seats. I mean, look how cool they are. They're super aggressively bolstered, up and lower. And in fact, they squeeze you in a bit, so if you're of a slightly more generous disposition, this could be a little uncomfortable. But what a cool seat, very comfortable. Oh, and these little holes mean that it is, of course, heated and cooled. So all for the price of a basic Charger. The regular dashboard's not aging that great. I mean, it is a bit shiny and basic. It all looks nice, but the plastics are looking a little cheap after all these years. It's still quite attractive. It just doesn't look very premium. Not what you get in, for example, the new Ram, which really moved the interior on. Otherwise, all the same great stuff as before. 8.4-inch Uconnect, which I love. T-bar shifter, really love. Makes it so cool. And plenty of space to keep stuff. Big, generous bins and things like that. The seat, again, as I said, very comfortable, easy to get comfortable. Visibility, you know what? It's a little bit of a low window line, so you can see that there's not a lot of daylight opening. So it feels quite cool. The view out the front with that hood scoop is amazing. Love the view out the front. And of course, this is the premium steering wheel that's wrapped in, I think, Alcantara. And it's got paddle shifters. Kind of everything you need, really. All right, let's see what this beast is like on the road. Can we even call it a beast? Let's find out. We've had a quick review of the Charger because frankly you all know what to expect after all these years. For me, it's more of a puzzle about the ethos of this car. I've driven every single Charger there is, from 3.6 SXT all the way up to the 6.2 Hellcat. I've also driven all the manual Hellcats you can, including the Challenger and the Wrangler. So I got a pretty good idea of what this platform does. And sitting in this car, I've been driving it for so many years. Even when I had the rental spec interior, the really crappy one when I first launched with, and now it's good, if a little bit cheap and shiny, but it's not that expensive. But it just feels like a place where immediately you want to go sideways or you want to rip out some sick burnouts. And this car won't do any of that because it's not that kind of car. But I get it. I get that a lot of people are getting into this car from Honda Accords or Camrys, cars that are milquetoast, very, very reliable. But this thing has all the attitude, and they want something that stands out, that has a plum crazy purple exterior. They want a car that makes them feel like a superhero. But for one reason or the other, they can't afford a V8 car. They don't want to spend the money on a petrol or the maintenance for a V8 car, so they think, I'll be sensible. So does it work? Alright, this car's a couple of goodies. It's got a super track pack, which allows me to set up the sport mode button. So if I put into sport, oh, hold on. Steering mode, I put sport mode into, oh, put everything on sport. Everything. Okay, cool. And even with traction on sport, let's see what it's like. So 300 horsepower. It's not slow. Makes a nice snarl. Then they got an exhaust on it. That's 120. That wasn't a very good start, but you get an idea. But this car is great. It just has a lot of mid-range, not so much low-end, because that's the way the Pentastar is set up. So it kind of just wants to be in the mid-range, and the top end's a little flat. Brakes are, it's a big heavy car, and I'm going to go off-road. Also gives me a chance to check out the ride. Ride's pretty good. We're going over some corrugated bumps, but because the car is so big and so broad and so wide, it drives fine. There are SUVs that will rattle themselves over this car. It's pretty good. It's on 20s as well. It's a car on 20s. It makes a nice noise. It's got the poke, but it doesn't have quite the sort of sideways drifty attitude. Whatever, sport is off track normally now, because it's not that kind of car. The Pentastar is a great sort of highway companion. Does pretty decent on gas, all of that, but it's not a muscle car engine. But does it matter? I think for most people, they want the feel. What's the steering like? When we're approaching a bend, typically the anathema of any Charger LX owner. It rolls a bit more than I expect on 20s. I don't know if it's got different suspension, but it feels pretty flat. I mean, it's got Goodyear Eagle F1 supercar tires. The steering is actually very weighty because of the fact that it's hydraulic. It's got so much feel. I mean, in the day we didn't think it had that much feel, but now nothing has feel. So this car feels like freaking Ferrari F40 in comparison. It's got a bit of feel to it. It's got a bit of weight. It's fast on the paddles. It's worth having the paddles. The paddles are nice to have because whatever performance is there, you can pretty much extract. Again, it's not a slow car. It's just that it's dealing with a lot of weight. So now you're thinking, okay, smarty pants, maybe the smart move is the Hemi V8. Actually, no. I mean, all of them come with the 8-speed automatic now, which is a great gearbox. I wasn't that impressed with the Hemi. I've driven the Hemi quite a bit. The Hemi works in the Challenger with the manual. But otherwise, it feels a bit softly in terms of throttle response. It doesn't quite have that aggression that a Hemi has in the trucks. Something about the way the intakes are set up or the exhaust, etc. But it's not crazy fast. Better 5.7 litre 360 horsepower engine. If you want a 360 horsepower engine that goes, you want a Chevy SS, you want a Chevy Lumina from the old days, or the Holden Monaro, those are the cars that feel fast with the 5.7. 6.4 is where it's at. 6.4 392, that is absolutely the best combination. The Hellcat's great if you can afford it, but it's a bit of a bitch to live with every day. It's very thirsty. It's very scary. You'll be sliding around everywhere. Of course, that's the one I like the most. If you ask me, I'd buy a Hellcat tomorrow. Hellcat is absolutely the way to go. But in the real world, the sensible man buys a 392. Does this feel like a 392? Yeah. If I close my eyes, okay, I'm driving, I'm keeping my eyes open. If I close my eyes, it feels like a 392. And at this speed, I'm doing 110. It is a 392 because you're not driving that fast, you're not that aggressive. It's fine. The ride is excellent. Steering feels weighty. It's a great car for 5 people to road trip in. It's got plenty of room. Good sound system. Great AC actually. Surprisingly good AC. Considering such a black cabin. So much style. But when I put my foot down, it moves, but it has to rev up to about 5,000 RPM. Again, if you're coming out of a Camry V6, this is broadly similar performance. I think the new Camry actually might be slightly quicker because the new Camry is excellent. But yeah, the Challenger GT is what it says. It's a way to dress up in the clothes of rich people. Let's chuck it. Okay, hard corner, chuck it in, going uphill. I like having steering feel. It's got sporty traction control, but it's not got enough power to really step out, so you can keep a good clip. I mean, it's in the Benz, this would be nice. I think the longer I spend with time with this car, the more I can forgive the Pentastar. It's what most people need. If you're schlepping to work and dropping your kids off, maybe a big antisocial V8 isn't the way to go. But I think the Charger is one of those cars that I'd feel special every time I drive it. I want it to feel special. So for me personally, I wouldn't get this car. I would go for the 392. I know it's more expensive and maintenance is a lot more expensive and it drinks gas, and I don't care. I'm buying a Dodge Charger. I want to be able to tell my grandkids someday that I had a cool tire smoking muscle car. You can get a Dodge Ram with a V6 engine. Not here, but you can. But that's not the pickup truck I want to be able to tell my kids about. However, if you get this car, I won't knock you. Because it's all about where you're coming from, right? If you saved up for years to have a car and you want to have something special, I'm not knocking you. Because any car that makes you happy at the end of the day is a good car. And this car is still so much more characterful than the typical Japanese 4-cylinder opposition. Or anything that even GM is putting out now, that I would forgive you. I enjoy this car for what it is. It's not the one I would buy. But for anybody who gets into the door with these cars, good for them, because they're definitely somebody different. They're not boring. They're not thinking about the resale or any of that shit. They just want a car that makes them happy. And for that alone, the Challenger GT is a success. Not the one I would buy, but if you buy it, good for you. Alright, that's it from me at Motoring Middle East. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you next time.